Welcome once again, homies, to the Invincible podcast. My name is Augustine, followed as always by Adam and Hector. This is volume 4 of the Invincible podcast. This one's called Head of the Class, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty of all of our thoughts because I think Adam has some controversial stuff to say about this one.
It's only controversial if the person you're talking to about is Hector.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Exactly. But before we get into that, I'd like to thank all the viewers of this podcast and of our channel overall. Guys, our viewership is through the roof. No joke. We just hit 13,860 subscribers on our channel, which is within the first 28 days. Insane. Wow. Insane. Within the first month. 13,000 subs, 14,000 subs.
And we've got over 500 people on our Discord.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that's also what I wanted to say. Thank you to everybody in the Discord as well. There's been some great conversation going on about other stuff, but also all the people that are getting into this comic, which is really cool. We just had some great casting that was done through the Invincible Twitter. Yep. If you go on the Twitter, check out who the people they casted for some of these characters are, and you will be hyped just like
Mahershala Ali, dude. Mahershala's playing Titan. Mm-hmm. That's a big get.
Yep. And we just read Titan. Adam, so you know who Titan is now.
That's right. That's right.
Isn't that awesome?
Oh, dude, that's amazing.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for them to announce Reginald Bell Johnson as Principal Winslow.
I know. That's
that would be awesome. I mean, it makes sense, right?
Come on.
I think, and I may be mistaken, but I do think that Kevin Michael Richardson might be playing that character, but I don't know if that was officially announced yet or not. So don't take my word for it. I'm also really hoping that they get Reginald Bell Johnson. That would just be
amazing.
The best. Yeah.
That would be awesome. So before we get into it, just a reminder, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Make sure you know that we are putting out videos. We're putting out good stuff like this. So let's get into it, guys. So
First of all,
you're starting off hot.
First of all, we have to acknowledge that this volume is not as earth-shattering as Volume 3. Come on, let's be real. Let's be real.
Yes.
Because the events of Volume 3, the reveal and truth about Omni-Man, that thing broke you and I's brain, Augustine, like 10 years ago, and it just broke Adam's brain. And now we're back and we're reading Volume 4. So I'm going to be the first to acknowledge, yes, this volume has a lot of sort of picking up the pieces, if you will. Right. There's a lot of restructuring and getting things in order for things to come down the line. A lot of setup, a lot of good, fun, interesting stuff happening. But this is more of we're setting things up. We're putting our ducks in a row. You know, we're collecting the characters that we're going to be spending time with. And I'm going to be the first to acknowledge that. Yeah. But that does not mean that it is in any way an inferior product at all. So just want to set the record straight.
No. Okay, well, let's go into that then, Adam. So Hector's saying these things because of something you might have said, Adam. So what happened exactly? How do you feel about this?
Look, all I said was that it was a little slower and a little more boring than the other issues. But that's because the first 3 volumes brought the hype.
It's true. It's true. They move fast, and also to echo what Adam's saying, like this is, I think, the first volume where it's more than 4 issues. It's more than 4 issues, and they are. So, and again, you look back to some of the issues that we read in the first 3 volumes, and some of those issues are just one fight, and it's like dialogue, but it's not dialogue heavy, and it's not people having conversations necessarily. It's just so quick, and you burn through it. And this is the first one where it's not just 5 issues; it's 6 issues plus a little extra, 8-pager or whatever with the Image Comics Super Special, whatever it was called.
Right. So this came out in 2004, right?
I think so.
So like the way I kind of like equate this to. If you were to take the first 3 volumes of Invincible, it feels like a 90-minute pilot, and this feels like episode 2.
There you go. That's a good way to put it.
So that is a good way to put it. So this whole volume is, like Hector was saying, it's like recuperating the shattered pieces of Mark's world, because we're dealing a lot with like Mark's mom's dive into possible alcoholism. Whoa. Like we see her passed out a lot with alcohol bottles next to her. We also deal with what is Mark gonna do when he gets back to school, and then the other information of the audio of the fight being leaked, so there's some identity issues happening, there's some other stuff, and it's definitely not like the the big super bombastic stuff that we had in the previous issues. This is like the setup, like Hector said, for characters that we are going to see in the future. There was cool little funny stuff happening, like the underwater
That was
fish
pretty
situation that he
damn
had
funny.
going on. It was funny. It brought some levity to the whole
Yeah.
situation. You know, it made it seem really, really fun. And then we also had that small street criminal type gangster stuff with Machine Head going
Yes.
on
Yes.
at the same time, right? And we also saw something interesting with the Flaxens coming back. Do you remember that part as well? The Flaxen aliens came back, and they had developed some technology to try to last a little bit longer.
You know what was the
in
most
the,
interesting thing about this is that you remember in the first, second volume, whatever it was, when Omni-Man got taken, he comes back and he was all, I allied with their lead scientist, the rebellion, and then we were able to fight. And then this Flaxen Emperor comes back and he's talking about the father was captured by us many ages ago. The destruction he caused to our home world has taken us centuries to repair. And you're like, you know what? Maybe Omni-Man was lying about that a little adventure, and maybe dude broke out and was like, I'm just gonna wreck
he just
before he can
wrecked
get back.
Maybe it was
Yeah.
too much of a party.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was definitely a Viltruvian party for sure. One of my favorite bits, though, is getting a little bit more backstory on Monster Girl. Like that little
Actually,
tidbit
that might
of
have been
information
that
we got.
possibly might have been like my favorite moment, because I know when Monster Girl was first introduced, I think it was the last volume.
Yeah.
I forget which issue exactly, but you know, she made the comment of like, "Oh, I could really use a cigarette or whatever,"
Yeah.
and we made the joke of like, "Oh, she's like a 12-year-old kid," and then she reveals she's 29 years old, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What?"
Yeah.
I was so confused by that, but then she explains to you more or less her like Benjamin Button effect.
Yep.
And you're
Right.
like, "Oh,
Right.
this is a lot deeper than I thought it
it's-
was going to be."
It's crazy. Yeah. So she definitely has an involved storyline as far as her background goes. So she's not just some kid
Yeah.
who turns into a monster.
Although I do love the fact that there was a panel of Monster Girl changing back to her human form.
Oh,
and one of the
and then she's
panels-
like, I got a date.
Well, one of the panels, it's like the top half is the monster and the bottom half is like a dress with like little legs.
Yeah.
And like, that's pretty funny.
yeah, that is pretty funny.
I also liked how in that moment, the way that after she told Robot what her deal was, or like reiterated it, he's like, I apologize. I was unaware I would be opening such old wounds. And then he just takes a little DNA sample and he's like, I'm going to try to fix this.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah,
okay, sure.
yeah.
So it's like, I like the way that Robot has been managing the Guardians of the Globe. I feel bad for Robot because they're so ineffective according to the government.
Cecil
But it's
and
like,
everyone,
he seems like a very logical, you know, almost Spock. Again, it's Zachary Quinto in my brain now. Like the way he's trying to
Right.
run stuff. And I like the way
Right.
that he was talking to Monster Girl. He was telling her, like, you're not in trouble, you know, but like it needs to stop. And I understand what you're going through. And it just everything he said was very like diplomatic. And I was like, I like the way that he is written as a character. It's very interesting.
And we also had some other funny moments with the demon detective guy.
Damien Darkblood.
Yeah, Damien Darkblood, where he pops up. He's like, I have some information for you guys. Well,
Well-
like, watch some TV, bro.
Also, now knowing that it's Clancy Brown,
Yeah.
that's who's voicing the character in my head when I read the book.
Yep.
So it's pretty great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I think one of the main through stories that we have to pay attention to here is the addition of Angstrom Levy. And he comes in and he's doing some weird teleportation, dimension hopping type stuff to collect the alternate versions of himself from different dimensions in order to grab maybe a collective knowledge of something. We don't know exactly what he's trying to do while recruiting the Mauler
Mauler
twins.
twins.
Mauler
That's
twins,
right.
right? Yeah.
That's right.
So that's something you definitely have to keep your eye out at, because remember in the previous volumes that we've read, we know that Kirkman is really good at connecting all of these threads. Right now,
Right.
he's just laying all them threads. He's just laying all them threads down for you, buddy. And then we're going to pick them up later on because all of this stuff eventually comes to
I
a
mean,
head.
immediately, you know, seeing Cecil use a teleporter
Yeah.
and that being introduced
cool.
more or less in the same issue,
Yeah.
I'm like, these things are
Yeah.
connected, aren't
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah, what
Could
was
they
what was your take on the Angstrom character? This guy who just shows up and is doing this stuff
Yeah.
kind of behind the scenes. Adam, what'd you think?
Yeah, it's a very cool character. You know, immediately recruiting the Mauler twins, I'm very skeptical of his intentions and what he wants to do. At the same time, he doesn't necessarily immediately come off as a villain type of character, but I'm very curious to see like where this goes because I'm intrigued by the idea and the premise of a character, and I kind of like the way they established the rules that he can jump through alternate dimensions, but he can't necessarily start at a 7-Eleven and end up at a Taco Bell. He starts and ends at the 7-Eleven, and then he has to leave markings for himself for where particular objects are so he can pull them through. I thought I like that. I like kind of setting the boundaries of what he can do.
Yep.
And if it evolves or not, like I'm excited to kind of see what else he does. But very intriguing, sort of like right now it feels kind of like a beeline story, but I'm sure as we go on, it'll become a more prevalent part of the main storyline. You sons.
That's all I'm going to say. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know this, Adam. Kirkman's writing is on
That's why
point
we're reading this
right now. Yeah, exactly. His writing is so on point right now that all of this stuff will come to its own eventually. Don't forget, we still have how many more volumes of this? We still
20?
have like 20,
Yeah.
20 more volumes to read.
Yeah.
There's still a lot coming
Plus
your way, buddy.
some tie-ins and things like that.
Right.
I also
exactly.
liked how this if you just look at the cover of the volume 4, it's all about graduation. You've got Debbie crying.
Right.
You've got the sort of allies that Mark has been making and collecting. But it's about graduation, and he graduates in this issue from high school. He throws his hat up, and it's another almost like a callback to Mark's power and super strength, where it goes way too far, and he's like, oh crap. But that also always reminds me of Peter Parker graduating from high school in Marvel Comics. The idea of like the teen hero that's kind of allowed to progress and to see where this character is going to go. And there's a lot of talk about college, and there's a lot of talk about like, what Mark's going to do in his future. And it's interesting, and you're invested, and you're like, yeah, what is his life going to be? Is he going to try to be like normal? Is he going to try to follow the very almost mundane or like typical secret identity existences that we're used to seeing with like Clark Kent or Peter Parker or all these other superhero archetypes, or are we going to deviate from that? Like I just like spending time with Mark at this moment, and the fact that then there's like an alien invasion which destroys a bunch of stuff, just this random thing, and then it gives them even more time off of school, and you're like, it almost feels a little quarantiney. I'm not gonna lie, it almost feels COVID, because it's like
Dude,
Yeah.
yes.
everything kind of paused, and they
Yes.
couldn't go through and finish with their life, and I was like, this hits different right now.
I feel like these sets of issues also probably give us the more human side of Mark Grayson, if that makes sense, because we've been seeing so much of him as Invincible, and we see a ton of him as Invincible in this, obviously. But I feel like there's a lot more human moments that are not just about him and his dad, Omni-Man. He's getting to spend it with William, with Amber, with his mom. He's with Cecil, with Adam Eve. We're starting to get really like deeper into the relationships that he has with these people, and these people's perception of him, the world. Cecil was a character that I didn't really know how interested I would be in him as a character. Like I was definitely interested in like what his objective and what his role is, but I'm still kind of like, I don't know whether I should trust Cecil, but I want to trust Cecil because everything up to this point he's done has mostly been to the benefit of Mark and his mom, Debbie.
Yeah.
But there's also still this part of me that's like, I'm still not 100% sold and I'm not 100% sure. But it's been really cool to see the evolution of the relationships. And Mark, well, I'm sure we'll talk about how him and Amber, their relationship is just like, it's all over the place. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I think that's another important thing to figure out too, is that not only is he trying to solidify some relationships, but he's letting one very important one fall aside.
Yeah.
But I hate to bring this up. I hate to be this guy for this conversation. How important is that relationship really? You know what I mean? This is his first kind of girlfriend in high school. I think we've all had sort of first loves. I think we can all relate to how important it is when you're in high school. But then when other things happen in life, that sort of falls away. And I feel like maybe the events of Volume 3, maybe what's happened with his dad, plus everything that's happened to the world, I think it's almost a metaphor for how we kind of reshift our focus as we go from adolescence to young adult. Like, because
Absolutely.
if Amber was the love of his life, he would be having for real deep conversations with her, and he would immediately tell her, as opposed to listening to somebody like Cecil Stedman or whoever else in his life being like, you can't tell her your secret identity.
Yeah, we'll deal with it. We'll talk about it when you get back.
It reminds me again of Peter Parker, but in Ultimate Spider-Man, in those comics written by Brian Michael Bendis, he had a young Peter Parker, who's like 15, 16 years old, tell his girlfriend, Mary Jane, like flat out tell her. And it's the whole issue is just them talking. It's this wonderful conversation. And it's become like a seminal issue of Spider-Man because of that, because that's a real deep relationship. Anyway, I think it's funny that she thinks he's a drug dealer. I thought that was so
And I love that
logical.
Adam, Eve, and William are laughing about
They
it.
just bust out
Just
laughing.
absolutely
That's
having
so great.
a ball about it. And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, I mean, now we know that in the show she's going to be played by Zazie Beetz.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I'm like, okay, I know that this character's not just going to go away.
Right.
Right.
Right. I don't. Okay. There's more. Okay. Question for you, Adam.
Hector, I like how you have to bite your
okay,
tongue so much.
okay.
Question for you, Adam.
Okay,
What?
I know. I might see where I might know where
What's
you're going
this?
with this.
What happened here, brother? What is this? Do you remember this moment? Do you see what Eve is pointing at? What's happening here, man?
Where the alien invasion suddenly
What's
stops.
happening? Adam's shaking his head. Okay, he knows.
Somebody flies
He's
over.
nodding. He knows. What's going on, man? Who was that?
Who was that?
That's right.
Well, the comic, we should point out that the comic never reveals who it is. Right?
Who was it?
Adam, do you have an inkling as to who that might
Was
have
it
been?
Boba Fett? Was it Ahsoka? Was it?
I mean, there was a part of me that was like,
it-
oh, is this Omni-Man coming back?
Was it Superman? Who was it?
Who?
I think Hector's more just throwing that out there just
Think about it.
to kind
Just
of...
maybe think about it. Just remember that fact. May come back. May come back. May come back.
Is it another
So-
shape-shifting Martian?
Okay. Can we talk about the Martians for a second?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have to talk about the mission to Mars.
I love this issue so much.
You know
that
what my favorite
happens-
moment was? When he's like, executed, and then literally the next panel is just like an abrupt escape, which
Run.
it's weird because when I saw that, I was like, oh, this animated series is going to do that so incredibly well with like the music,
Yeah.
the sound, the voiceover, executed. And it's just going to cut to that moment. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Go, go, go.
Yep. Yeah, that was actually a really cool issue. And actually that issue, I feel like it's when kind of Kirkman really starts kind of taking his own. I'm not Kirkman, Ryan Otley
Yeah.
starts taking over really in his art style. Like he's getting really comfortable, and you're really starting to see like his own style breaking from the original template that was laid out for him beforehand. And it's kind of like a smooth transition because it starts to get more personal for Otley, but still keeps to that original template that we saw.
Yeah.
Hector, why do you like the Mars mission so much?
Because I think that it's a great sort of self-contained little adventure. I think it's so funny and sad and interesting that as soon as he has some time, like he gets called to do this thing, and it's like a week-long thing. Like he has to fly next to the shuttle.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
yeah, it's a
They
2
literally
weeks.
have to lie and be like, we went out of town for a family emergency.
Weeks-long
Yeah.
thing. So it's directly interrupting Mark's life, but also the way that they established to go back to, and that's kind of what this whole volume did is there's multiple visitations of previous Guardians of the Globe and their life. And
Yeah.
now we get to see where Martian Man came from. The template Martian Manhunter. So sure enough, except we go there and it's not as cool as DC Comics where they have their sort of green Martians that are now all extinct. The Martians are
Yeah.
still alive. They have a problem with
Right.
the Sequids. Those little Starro type characters like Starro the Conqueror. But I loved this issue because I love cool stuff on Mars. They're writing creatures that look like they're out of John Carter of Mars. And at the
No,
end,
they do. They totally do. Yeah.
totally, I feel like that's all homage. And at the end, the astronauts get in there, and one of the guys is a dang shape-shifting Martian who changes his costume. Did you see what was happening there, Adam?
Well, so I was like reading through, and going panel to panel to panel, and then he gives like a look where he like looks, and I kept going, and I was like, wait a minute. And I flip back and I'm like,
What's he doing?
oh, that's what he did. He shapeshifted. And then you turn the page and you see the alien you see the astronaut on Mars being attacked by the Sequids.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
And-
okay,
and
cool.
then-
This is gonna lead to some fun.
And then that character,
Yeah.
that human, like Russ, we partied.
Yeah.
We see him at his apartment, and he makes his key, his
Key out of the
finger, a
finger.
key, grabs the mail. He goes, okay, and then he goes, oh, I couldn't have held that. I'm like, what a great introduction to a character.
Super
who,
fun.
Full disclosure,
Absolutely.
I will love in this series. Like this character.
that is a
Yeah,
cool
this
character.
Martian in disguise who came to Earth. I love him, and
Yeah.
we're going to see more of him later. But I really love that
Yeah.
issue. And then the last issue after that Martian adventure, where it opens.
Well, no, I think that was in the Martian Adventure.
Right.
No?
And yeah, that's the second to last
Yeah.
issue in this collection.
Yeah.
And then the very last one is on top of seeing that guy in his apartment, we see Eve potentially break up with William. Like she breaks up, so it's not working.
I think she does.
I think so too.
Amber is really left hanging. Like Debbie's not doing well, and then it goes to Titan, and it goes to this huge fight, and the introduction to one of the best characters in the series, motherfucking
Battle Beast. Oh
Adam.
God, hold on. Where's my pin?
Adam.
I have Invincible.
Talk to us.
You don't understand.
You do not understand.
Well, you do not understand Battle Beast yet,
So
Adam.
good.
But he is my favorite character of this entire series. And you will see
and what
why.
an interesting introduction, Augustine. What'd you think of this? Like revisiting this, I forgot that this is how he was introed. I forgot.
Revisiting this, I was like, I can't believe this is where Battle Beast started. Because initially he was written to be just like in this issue and not necessarily expand to anything else. But we're going to see him in the future, Adam. And you're going to see Battle Beast revisit some issues. And see why when he was being blasted, he was like, "This is all you got? Like, what's going on here? Like, I was promised battle, and I didn't get battle, so I'm leaving." Which is kind of weird in the rest of this universe because everybody's been out for blood.
Yeah.
This guy's like, "I'm above all of you.
I mean,
I don't even need this."
Out of all the characters, he was definitely the coolest designed one.
I
was like, if I'd be a Halloween, if I'd be a
Yeah.
character for Halloween, I'd be Battle Beast.
You wouldn't be Tether Tyrant, Adam? You wouldn't be that guy with the beanie with the bubble gum out of his chest?
Tether Tyrant.
Battle Beast is kind of cool.
I'm trying.
There was also,
to
I'm very curious to see more of that character and kind of how he plays into the story. The one moment that really surprised me, and I don't know how much of it is Otley and Kirkman trying to kind of like throw you off, and how much of it is actually going to come back and be a big part of the story. But when we're going through the different dimensions, one of the alternate dimensions that we first go through, Omni-Man and Invincible are pretty much the villains of that story.
They teamed up.
Yeah.
They
They
teamed
teamed
up.
up.
Bro.
And
I'm very glad you brought that up. I'm very glad you brought that up because of the fact that Angstrom's story does not finish in this volume. Like it wasn't finalized or anything. So we will conceivably see more of Angstrom. You can bet your dang bottom dollar that there's going to be more of a visitation of, well, what are these characters like in other realities?
You guys
know?
see that? This is my enamel pin of.
Get to focus.
where
Get
is
to
it? Come
focus. Oh,
Look at this.
Mr. Battle
That's
Beast
cool.
himself. That's my enamel pin. I have an Adam Eve enamel pin.
Don't you have an Adam Eve
I
t-shirt
have-
too?
I have an Adam Eve t-shirt.
Which is so funny
have an
because I
Adam-
went with you when you got that shirt.
yeah.
And I had no clue what Invincible was, and now I'm like, oh, now
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
the reference. I get it.
Now you
I get
understand.
it.
Yeah.
We got this bad boy, who you will eventually meet. You don't know
Too
this
early,
guy
too
yet,
early.
Adam,
Put it
but
away.
he's
Put it
gonna-
away.
he's- I
That's
know,
way
put it
too
away,
early.
put it away.
It's way too early.
That's volume
and
20.
Also this one.
Very classic Invincible.
And very
Classic
classic
Marvel.
Invincible. And then I have a bunch more, but I don't know
My
where I-
God.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
pin
I
collector.
got
That's
all
going
of
to be
them.
your
I got all-
supervillain name.
Dude, that's how much I love this
I just
thing.
want action figures of all these characters. Maybe with the animated series,
Yeah.
maybe they will like bust out and make a bunch of them. I want to remind you,
hope so.
Michael Dorn, aka Worf from Star Trek, is going to be voicing Battle Beast, and he has the best voice. It is rich, it is deep. He also voiced. Bro has been doing it for years. Michael Dorn voiced Calabac back on Superman the Animated Series. Similar characters.
no
You know what I'm saying?
way.
Similar. Yeah. So I can't wait to see that. I mean, I think
That's
I said,
a good get right there.
I think I said everything I kind of wanted to say with Volume 4. I still love it. I love this series. Not as earth-shattering as 3. Longer, a lot more talking. I will give you gentlemen that for sure. But
Well, Hector, you have to talk about the moment that made you almost cry.
which moment? Oh my God.
The end of the first
I put it in our Heroes Reforged Discord, right? Rereading
Right.
this, the end of the first volume where Debbie tells Mark, and when she's super drunk, she goes, "Why
Oh,
did
yeah.
you?"
How could we not talk
Bro.
about
Yeah.
that?
Come
Bro.
on. That's like the crux of this whole thing.
I could tear up right now thinking about it because then later she apologized and it's her and Mark just being like, it's okay. And in that little quick Image comic special, Mark's like, I don't think I'm ever going to be okay, Mom. I don't know. But Debbie says to Mark, she says, it's so brutal. She goes, why did you have to fight him, Mark? Why did you
Drive
drive him away? And Mark just,
Yeah.
how do you respond? Like, oof, it's so sad. It's so real.
What do you say to
can't.
that? What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I wasn't really expecting that, honestly, because I feel like we've never gotten that sense or that like urge from his mom that she would say something like that to him.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, they're both going through a metric ton of right now, and her emotions are all over the place. She's actually the character that I'm the most worried about in this comic book, that something's going to happen to her. I don't want anything to happen to her, because I think, like, if Mark loses her, that's kind of all he has left. That's the only shoulder he can lean on. Hector, don't make that face, or I will slap you across it through the computer screen.
Maybe.
You son of a bitch.
I can breathe.
I cannot breathe. Okay, well, in that case, no, but I think, like, I think that's the thing that I enjoy about the book so much is his mother's not just some passive character in the book. She is like a cornerstone of his existence and him moving on and him having a purpose. You know, he wants to do so much for his mom. I mean, Cecil mentions, like, oh, did you get your check? Oh, yeah, my mom bought a new dishwasher and she bought I think it was a car or something.
A car.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, this dude's making change. And he's like, I'll have just enough to get my books. His priority is nothing else but his mother.
Yeah.
Like, the livelihood of his mother is
That's
what matters
true.
to him.
That's
and
true.
even when she went to go to Chicago or New York to do the book deal.
Yeah.
The dealership
Yeah.
deal.
And she
yeah.
has the lunch with the coffee with the woman and she tells her everything. And then Invincible or Mark shows up and saves her. You know, she's like, I told her everything. You know, it's just like, her husband's a superhero, and you get it. This woman is just like dying for friendship and someone to talk to and someone to just I don't know, listen to her. I think that's the big thing, is just listen to her.
Yeah, well, she kept saying during that whole thing, she was like, the woman, Debbie, the publisher lady, I'm sorry, not Debbie, Claire, the publisher lady, she kept saying, I don't really know what to say, but Debbie kept saying, well, I just need somebody to listen to.
Sometimes that's all
really
like
the
everybody
only person.
needs. Sometimes you just need someone to like listen to what you have to say.
And she could not talk to Mark about what she's going through, because he's also in it. He's too close, and it's different. So the fact that she did have to go find that stranger who was the wife of Super Patriot, which is another tie-in comic that Robert Kirkman wrote. I ordered a copy. When I get it in, we're going to eventually get to it. I'm really curious now about Super Patriot. With this little tease, I'm like, actually, let me read some Super Patriot that Robert Kirkman wrote. If it's like a husband and wife, like if that's what this is, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm really glad that you picked up on all that stuff, Adam. And like, she is I don't want to give anything away about what her story will be, but you said it perfectly. She's not a passive character, even though she is a supporting character in Invincible throughout. The book is not going to shift focus to her, but she is like Alfred or J. Jonah Jameson.
She's allowed to have her moments, which I love.
Commissioner Gordon, one of these amazing, supporting characters in a comic series. She's allowed to have her moments, man, and she's got some really awesome stuff down the line that we can't talk about, but she breaks my heart in this one, man. That moment, it's just like, I'm excited about this next volume.
It's tough. It's very real, and I just want to go back to the overall arcing thing. Yeah, that this volume was slower, but as far as like content and moving the story along, it definitely did that. Just because we get to see small moments like that, he has some fun under the water where he's gonna become the Prince Lord or whatever.
So
that was creepy.
Such a funny. He's like, oh, so then we go and we do our thing, right, in private. No, you do it in front of everybody.
No, you do it in front of everybody. Cool, bro. Okay. I'm not doing it with a fish underwater.
Cecil, are you gonna get me out of here, or am I gonna have to lose my virginity to a fish?
Freaking Cecil was like, "You're a virgin, kid." He's like, "I'm 18. Come on."
Get me out of here,
and
dude.
then he calls him. He's like, "You're still there." What are you talking about?
I was for sure.
So
I thought
good.
our lawyers would have gotten you out of there. Okay, we'll figure something out, kid. Like,
your lawyers suck, apparently,
buddy.
Right. It's this kind of writing that we need to look out for in the future for future things, because small things like this are going to keep happening. But we can't forget that we still don't know where Omni-Man is. We have no idea what he's doing. I have my suspicions that we have not seen the end of him.
Augustine, you've read this series, so you know one way or the other.
I'm gonna look, guys. I'm trying to put myself in this moment, in this moment now, right?
Agreed.
Like, because it's gonna be shitty if I'm like, oh, well, I know what happened.
It's true.
Because
You
I
would
know
just
what
be like
happens,
Hector then.
clearly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would be.
I'm being.
I would be just like Hector. You're not being. No, it's just that.
Hey, man, you know what you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. You do know what.
But
you know.
I agree with Augustine. It is so fun to reread the series and to put yourself in that context of,
Yeah.
you know, getting to experience a story up to this point. Man, kind of vaguely remembering, not, of course, not page for page, word for word, but vaguely remembering where things happen. It's so fun to see what is still a surprise, what still hits, and what is different knowing what we know. But boy, oh boy, is it fun to just put yourself in that context and to just be at the series there from the beginning. So
definitely. And hanging on because we're still in for a hell of a ride, you guys. So with that, I think we covered it pretty good. Unless you guys have anything else you want to cover. Did we miss on it? Did we
just that finale, that final shot of the character revelation that we got? I'm like,
Titan?
Oh, yeah. Of Titan.
Just full on,
just more.
Just full on,
So
like Kingpin.
what kind of strings do we have here? So we have the Titan, the Metal Face, not Metal Face.
Metal Head.
Machine Head.
Machine Head,
Head. Machine Head and Isotope with Titan taking over as the leader of the gangsters. The Mauler twins with Levy doing some kind of craziness.
This Martian who came from Mars. And
the Martian who came from
the
Mars.
human guy who's got the sequid on him.
The Sequid
that guy
taking over the human on Mars, and then also who was that mysterious figure that flew overhead and stopped that crazy alien invasion that almost destroyed the world? So there's a lot, Adam. A lot
can't
of
wait
stuff
to find
happened,
out where
dude.
Amber came from.
Oh,
I don't know. No.
I hate you guys.
I cannot say.
But with that, we will close it out, you guys. Thank you guys for watching this next episode. We'll be back next week with the next volume 5 of the Invincible Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit all that stuff. Come follow us on all our social medias, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.